Yeah, y'all already know what time it is. The Fiyah Session. We back, another episode. Y'all notice the screen looking a little weird because your boy up here by himself today. Yeah, my people are Benji. Shout out to Benji, my guy. He's a little under the weather. Trish Michelle will be joining us shortly. But yeah, we rocking solo today. But we do have a guest. We do have an amazing guest. So, get those questions ready. And I was very secretive to some who did not, go and check out the post about who our guest was today because I want you all to be surprised and amazed. And some of you all gonna be like, huh? But you know what? Definitely need this information because our guest today is going to be talking about something that we all going to need. We're all going to need this information at one point in time, if it's not for ourselves, for our loved ones. So definitely stay tapped in, stay tuned in, and get those questions together. This week has started off pretty boring for you, boy. I was with family this weekend. Shout out to the Jackson family, Waco, Texas. We buried my uncle. Big influence on the family, but a lot of love was shown. So you know what I'm saying. We appreciate the prayers and the condolences that were sent, to me through the various social media sites that we're on, and we appreciate the love and support as always. But you know, in life we have things that we're responsible for, right? And today's guest is an amazing business owner who provides a service that, again, I say we will all need at some point in time. As my grandfather used to tell me all the time, you spend your whole life jumping over that hole, and one day you're going to fall in it. And what he meant by that is we all got to die someday, right? Now, we've had episodes before on life insurance, so y'all don't have to do GoFundMe's to bury your loved ones or have your loved ones bury you. But today we got a very special guest, Miss Christie K. Moore. She's from the Mansfield Funeral Home and Cremations, and she's going to be giving you information and asking questions and answering questions. Answering questions that you may have about her business, about the industry, so we can make sure that you are informed and that when that time comes, you have all the information that you actually would need. So, without further ado, let's introduce to you Miss Christie K. Moore.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today. This amazing Tuesday is definitely hot in Texas. Shout out to you for for agreeing to join us because she's working on a lot, y'all. She's a busy person, and I reached out to her and she agreed to do the show. So we're thankful for that because we know she's busy, and we're gonna talk about how busy she is because she got a lot going on outside of just what she does during the day. So, Miss Christie, how you doing today?
I am doing well. I feel amazing and I feel honored to be here to be on this show. I love the show. I follow you all. I'm very impressed and congratulations on episode 133.
We definitely appreciate it. It's a lot of hard work that goes into this that I think some people might not understand or might not know. And we do this show live, just like you all are watching it right now, so you can talk to the guests and interact and ask questions. So we appreciate that. We appreciate that, Miss Chrissy, definitely. So
Yes.
we want to start out by by asking. We ask all our guests, you know what I'm saying, where you from, what set you claim, whatever you want to let the people know. You know what I'm saying? Like, where are you from? Like, what city, what high school? Let us know something.
Okay. So I am from Oak Cliff, Texas, born and
Okay, okay.
raised. I was born and raised behind the tennis courts at Keystone Hampton on 5 Mile. So, you
Oh,
got
wow.
5 Mile split with Hampton. I was on the side behind the tennis courts.
Okay,
My
okay,
home school was Kimball.
okay. Shout out to the Knights, Night
Shout out to
Train.
the Knights. I went there for the first day of school, my freshman year, and then ended up getting accepted to the Talented and Gifted Magnet High School that was housed at Pinkston. So
Okay.
I attended Pinkston freshman, sophomore, junior year. I danced for Pinkston. I was a Vikingette.
Oh
And then,
wow. Okay.
yeah, and then so after that, they decided to open up Townview. And so I was the first graduating class, which was my senior year at Townview Magnet in 1996.
Town View.
Townview?
I know a
Yeah,
lot of
we were the
people
best.
like. Yeah, a lot of people from Dallas are probably like, what?
Yeah,
But they give us smoke. I went to Townview as well. I graduated from Townview Science Engineering Magnet, and my home school was Kimball as well. I started out my first 2 years at Kimball, and then I transferred full time to Townview after my sophomore year. So yeah, I
yeah.
completely understand. Yup.
So tag was number one in the nation, and science was number two. But it's okay.
See, I mean, hey,
It's
hey,
okay.
I'm not gonna argue with that. It's definitely true. You know what I'm saying? But hey, it's a second place that I'll gladly take.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Yup. All right. So we know you're a proud Oak Cliff representative, and so am I. You know what I'm saying? So where did you go to college at after you left the great town view?
So, ironically enough, I did not want to go to a traditional college. I knew when I was
Mm.
really young that I wanted to be a mortician. And
Mm.
so the only thing that you needed to be a mortician was an associate's degree.
Hold
So
on, hold on, hold on, hold
my,
on, hold on, hold on,
yeah,
hold on. How, how you know when you young that you want to be a mortician? That's interesting to me.
yeah. So the story is my great grandmother, my dad's mom, helped raise my brother and I, my brother Clayton and I. And so when we were about 6 years old, she was diagnosed with colon cancer. And all the treatments that were available to her, her body continuously rejected. So as a 6 year old, seeing my great grandmother be big in the church and taking care of all the grandkids and great grandkids, it was really interesting to see her body deteriorate. And so we were there when she passed. And the next day we went to the funeral home in Oak Cliff to make arrangements. And instead of making a left to the restroom, I ended up in the prep room as a 9 year old and I watched them embalm her.
Wow.
And I was fascinated. I just stood there and I saw the blood, I saw everything. I was really fascinated. Yeah. And so a couple of days later, we had the funeral, and she was in the casket, and she was beautiful. They filled out her face because the cancer kind of made her look emaciated, and so her face was kind of skin and bones. They filled her face out. Her hair looked beautiful, beautiful dress. The minister had my family laughing and like thinking about the great things. And over those previous years, I would see them crying, then sad, then happy, all the anticipatory grief. Well, now at the funeral, they have this sense of peace because they see her in the casket looking peaceful.
Mm.
And so when the service was over, I rode in the limo with my parents. We got to Singing Hills Cemetery, and as they were lowering her down the ground, I asked my dad, "What is that person called who took care of Lolo?" And he said that person's called a mortician. And I literally felt like what I know now to be the Holy Spirit, like something just literally came over me. I had goosebumps. And I said to myself, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So that was
Mm.
March 11th, 1988, when that happened.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
is that's a doozy because not many it's a lot of people, I ain't gonna lie to you, it's a lot of people that, in their 40s and 50s and still don't know what their purpose is and
Mm-hmm.
still don't know what they're meant to do. And you knew that as a child, so that's very, very interesting.
Yes. So, fast forward, 9 years old and up, I've always been very, very good with science and math. And so my sophomore, junior year, I told my parents, I'm not going to a traditional college. I want to go to Dallas Institute in Pleasant Grove, which was the number one school at the time. I want to go there. I want to get my associates, and I want to go straight into the field. Well, my parents weren't, they didn't mind me wanting to do that, but my dad was like, you need to have a stronger foundation before just getting an associate's degree. Go to college, do what we tell you, go to college. Once you get your bachelor's, you can do whatever you want. So that's how I ended up going to Hampton University and getting my bachelor's, full scholarship to Tennessee State and Meharry Medical College, and then I came back and got my associates.
Oh wow. So y'all hear all that? She educated people at some prestigious, you know what I'm saying, places, you know what I'm saying? And you say that you attended an HBCU, well actually twice.
Three
You know what I'm
times.
saying? Well, yeah, three times. I'm sorry, three times.
Hmm.
So while we're talking about that, just briefly talk about the importance of your education at those institutions, because we've had conversations about that before, and I'm a proud graduate of Paul Quinn College here in Dallas, and I
Nice.
spent my first 2 years at Prairie View A&M in Prairie View, Texas. So yeah, I'm a proponent of HBCUs as well. So can you talk to us just a minute about the importance of that education at those institutions?
It's really important because if you can survive at an HBCU, you can survive anywhere. I don't think it's intentional that the way a lot of HBCUs are set up is for you to like have to figure things out and go through the trenches. I mean, they have it a little bit easier these days, but back then we didn't have cell phones. We barely had internet. I just got my first email address my freshman year of college. So we literally had to figure things out. And it taught me how to problem solve. It taught me how to survive. It taught me how to utilize my resources and figure out everyone's strengths and weaknesses. It was an excellent situation for me. I highly recommend if someone goes to another type of institution, you need to go to an HBUs for undergrad. That's a necessity. And those who didn't quietly wish they did
Well, yeah, I hear that all the time,
all the
you
time.
know, and they want to come to homecoming
Yes,
at the school, which is fine, you know what I'm saying? And I think the homecoming, are what piques a lot of people's interest. And, you know what I'm saying, the actual, day to day, I guess, of HBCU. So, shout out to the HBCUs out there and the people who graduated from those institutions. Like she said, I mean, not every day is easy. It teaches you how to be creative and how to persevere. But when you come out of there, you can survive anywhere else out in the world because it's easy
absolutely.
work,
Light
easy
work.
work. Yo, all
Hi
right. So
guys.
we
Hi.
want to pop in Trisha Michelle. Welcome
I
to the
forgot it
show
was Tuesday.
today. Look at you. Look
I
at
swore it was
you.
Wednesday. I asked my daughter, I said, "What is today?" And she was like, "Tuesday." I said, "I gotta
Well,
go."
You
well,
look
Christy,
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Christy, that's
Hello.
Trisha
Nice to meet
Michelle.
you.
Part of our trio on the
Yeah.
show.
The
Yup.
other
So
trio sick. Is that
yeah,
what's going on?
yeah. Benji's sick, and Benji's actually in the audience, so he's in the chat,
Okay,
chatting it
Benji.
up. Yep. So yeah, he's putting his input through the chat today.
He's probably saying something dumb like forehead because he can't help it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there you
There we
go.
go.
See.
Forehead.
Yeah.
Oh, child.
Yeah.
Tell him worry
So
about his forehead. Put some ice on it.
yeah, so this is the dynamic people. If you tune into the show, y'all know we go back and forth, we have fun, but hey, this is just the nature of what we do. We try to give you the information, but we try to give you some entertainment at the same time.
Gotta keep it light and just fun.
Yeah. All right. So, Miss Moore, we got the education piece down. We
Yeah, I
got
was
the
listening.
backstory piece down. So you've been knowing what your purpose is and what you're passionate about is from a child, which is, I guess we could call you a child prodigy because that is, that's not regular. Let's put it that
It
way.
isn't because everybody starts out with what they want to be when they grow up. I want to be this when I grow up, and then you ask them later, and it don't always be the same, or they did it and then they found they somewhere else. So to say that this has always been something that you knew and you are that, that's rare.
And on top of that, what it is, like what kid,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I've now I can't lie though. I take that back. I have seen some kids that play funeral home. We play
Hmm.
house, we play this, we play that, but I didn't see a couple kids
kids
play
play.
funeral
How do you
home.
play funeral home?
I mean, they have their little pets. They put them in a box. You know
Set
what I'm
them
saying?
up.
They prop them up. They do all that. Like I've seen, I've seen
I
it.
just want to see the reaction of the pet.
Oh man.
Because the poor little dog probably like, what the heck?
Well, the dog, or I've seen them do stuffed animals. I've seen
Okay,
I've seen one little boy
I
on
mean that
TikTok.
that's a little more.
one little boy
You
on
know.
TikTok, he had the stuffed animal in the suitcase. So when he unzipped the suitcase and put the top up and everything, like it was weird, but it was funny at the same
Okay.
time. You know what I'm
That's
saying? And
awesome
he stood there with his hands like this. You know what I'm
though.
saying?
We knew the
And
process.
he came with a crown and he did the Asha World crown. He did the whole thing. He had a whole little service for the stuffed animal. So
Send him the
Mhm.
glory.
but I tell you one thing, it's one of those services. I mean, it's one of those services that people provide that it your customer will keep coming. You're gonna always have customers.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
no pun intended, but you know,
That's it. The inevitable is the end to every beginning.
as
That's it.
my pop says, if you're in the funeral industry, your customers are always dying to meet you.
I cannot. In the
Boom.
truest statement
Yep,
possible.
yep. Shout out to my pops. He comes
Shout
with
out,
the
Pops.
weirdest. Yeah, but so he come with jokes all the time. So, but okay. So we're talking about your trek to get to where you are. So can you talk to us about why you're so passionate about this job?
I'm passionate about it because I always think about how I want my parents and my brother and sister and their kids and my child, how I want them to be taken care of. And I've been afforded the opportunity to work for other funeral homes, mainly corporate owned funeral homes. And what I saw was it was more like a factory, like in and out, in and out, in and out, because it was more of a quantity over quality.
Mm.
And so as I saw that and I was forced to kind of work in that, I left that space and then started working with funeral homes around the country that needed help to make sure that their companies weren't going to go under or they were ready to sell, but they weren't really ready to sell their companies yet. And so I just saw a need and I saw mistakes that were being made out there. And I'm like, there is a better way. So and I was actually a professor of mortuary science at Dallas Institute as well. So I taught embalming, chemistry, and art. And to just see the students leave me and then to go out and manage and own funeral homes, I knew that there was a different way to serve people. And so my passion comes from seeing them come in, not knowing what to do. And when we cremate their loved one or bury them, for them to look at me and say, thank you for educating me and taking care of me, that means the world to me.
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
a
an
lot.
amazing piece of it because you said the education piece of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're telling me about the processes, and I think for some people they might not want to know, but I think knowing what's happening to my loved one, the process that you're sending them through, and the insight that you give, kind of provides that visibility to the whole process, and can kind of put you at ease.
Yes.
Um, so I guess for me, my other question would be when you're talking about the process, like how detailed are you? Are you talking about like if somebody says, okay, what's embalming?
Mm-hmm. I asked
So talk to
them.
us about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give us some
So
insight.
the textbook definition of embalming is three aspects: disinfection, restoration, and preservation of the body.
Mm.
So when someone passes, their body becomes harmful to those who are still living. So what happens when your heart stops pumping, your blood stops flowing, bacteria and pathogens begin to grow inside and on your body. Okay, that's where the decomposition, the smell, and all those things
Yeah.
come from. And so embalming disinfects the body first, helps to help disinfect the body. It helps preserve the body to slow down. We try not to say that it stops because things happen, decomposition, and then it restores the body. It restores the body to a lifelike appearance. So people say they look better dead than alive. That's really what embalming is all about. So I give them that textbook, but I have some families like, no, tell me, what do you do? I'm like, okay, so we do an incision, we lift the
Yeah.
jugular carotid, we inject through the carotid, we drain the blood through the jugular, and we know that we are done with the circulation of the embalming fluid when the blood has been completely drained out of the body. We make sure that all aspects of the body, all the limbs are embalmed properly. And then we do some other things to make sure that the body is preserved as best as possible. Then we cosmetize. So I can go as deep as they want to go. And then they'll say, oh, that's enough. Or they'll be like, oh, tell me more. I love those that want to know, because it's about chemistry. Embalmers are chemists, because, and I'm a licensed embalmer, because we have to know, we have to look at their body, figure out how they passed. They may have blood clots, they may have hardened arteries, they may have discoloration, they may have this decomposition already setting in, they may have rigor. So we have to know what type of fluids, dyes, humectants, all kinds of things that we have to put in that tank to make sure that we embalm that body properly. And my staff and I take very, very, we're very full of pride when it comes to the work that we do. My embalmer is amazing. And that's what I expect out of everything that we do at our firm.
And the embalming process, how long does that take?
It depends. You would think like the smaller the body, the shorter time. We've had some really small people that take hours because their arteries are hardened, and so we have to hypo the arm, or we have to embalm through the femoral. I mean, there's different aspects, and there'll be really, really large people who don't take long because their arteries aren't hardened or they don't have any blood clots. So it really depends on the state of their body.
Okay. So the embalming piece of it is what black folks generally refer to as girl, the body look good. You know, because I ain't gonna lie to you, I've been around. I ran the audiovisual at our church for almost 20 years, so I've seen a lot of funerals. So, and my sister, shout out to my big sister, she was in the funeral in the mortuary industry for a little while. So I've been around a few funerals, a few dead bodies, right? Few corpses.
Right.
I don't know the correct term that you would use for it, but I've seen them, and I go and I look and I try to see, okay, which funeral home did this body? Who did the body as the black folks? And
who got the body?
Who got the body? So when I see the body, I'm looking to see if they look like they did when they were alive. Right, or they look good, or the skin looks like it's glowing a little bit, or it looks glossy, or those type of things. So, so my thing is like, so that goes back to the embalming process, right?
Yes.
So the embalming process is the basis for how good that body is going to look once you go through that process. And then you got to do makeup and all the work after, correct?
Correct. So the embalming is the foundation, and to make sure that the body is ready to be cosmetized, and the hair, of hair and makeup is done. And so if you have a separate person that does hair and makeup, the embalmer can make their job really easy or really hard. Depending on the work that they do.
So that plays into when people are like, the body looks gray, so they're coming in trying to color match makeup to that. I think my cousin had to deal with that. And so she had called me because it was difficult for her to figure out how to bring the skin tone back to like what it was similar to when the body was, when she was alive.
Yeah.
And so that plays off of that embalming and that kind of a little bit of color theory that you guys go through. With that.
Yeah, because some embalming fluids have dyes already in them, but you don't want to have too much dye, because once you put too much dye in there, there's really not much you can do. So now you have to cover that up.
Right.
But to a lot of embalmers' defense, those that are really, really good, you can be the absolute best embalmer, but you're still dealing with a human body. And so you have, other elements that could, help or hurt the embalming process. But if you know what you're doing as an embalmer, those issues are few and far between.
Yeah.
So the dye, does the dye make the skin darker or change the skin color or anything like that? What does the dye do?
So dye will bring like a rosy appearance to the person's skin. So for instance, if you have someone that's fair skinned and the way they passed, they became extremely pale for whatever reason, or they were jaundiced, and you want to try to pull that yellowing out of their skin.
Yeah.
Then there are different dyes and different things that you can put in the embalming tank to help with that discoloration or that lack of color.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Trish Michelle, you sound like you know a little bit. Look at you.
Look
And
at
no,
you.
because we do color theory, and color theory is in hair and coloring.
Mhm.
And, you know, so if there's yellow tones and we're trying to get that out of the brassy tones, or we're trying to, you know, cancel out the gray or anything. So there's certain colors that we'll put in. So, I mean, it kind of just relates.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. All right. So, Christy, how long have you been in this field?
I've been in the field 26 years.
Wow.
The time.
Long time.
20. Yeah, that's a long that's a long time. So,
Yeah.
So she know what she's talking about, y'all.
I know. Man,
yeah.
I taught it.
So,
So.
That's why.
yeah, so with you being in this bill for this field for so long, um talk to us about the competitive nature of it, because I know it's competitive, right?
Mhm. It can be, you know. So what I tell people is, having a competitor is a mindset. Okay. So I've always said I don't have competitors. I have colleagues in the field that do similar things that I do, but no one can do what I can do because of what God has placed in me. And they feel the same way because of what God has placed in them. And I believe that what's for me and for my firms is for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to my mindset, I'm very clear about staying in my lane, being helpful to those around me that may need my help. So my colleagues know if they need to use one of my caskets, or they need a insert for cremation, or they need to borrow an urn for a cert, all they have to do is call me. I'm
good.
all about teamwork. And so because of that, I don't see that it's competitive, but I do have colleagues that feel that it's a competition. And so I let them feel that.
Right.
And I let them operate in that. And I stay in my lane. So much so, if there's anything going on in the industry, my staff, they literally have to come to me and say, hey, Chrissy, this is what's going on, because they know I literally stay in my lane. I don't know really what the drama of anything going on, unless someone tells me, because I am focused on my families, my staff, and my personal family and my life. I'm about service. I'm not about getting into the mix of others. I don't really believe that I have competitors. I just have people that do similar things that I do.
She got
And
a
it works for me.
She Ray Charles to the bullshit.
Well, yeah, but you know what? A couple of episodes ago, we talked about boundaries, and it sounds
Absolutely.
like
Yes.
she is utilizing her boundaries very well.
Yes. And you know,
and
in this industry, you know, being in it for so long and have taught so many people, I call them my kids, and a lot of them are older than me. I remember walking in as a new professor, and one guy was like, you know what? If she's teaching me, I'm out. Because he was like 75 and I was like in my 30s.
Oh yeah.
But I knew. And he came back and he graduated. And he said it was the best experience possible. So I'm really big on, you know, educating. I'm about, if I do my job, the money will come. I don't lead with money. I tell families, they sit down with me, I want you to have change left over. I am not here to take all of your money. Don't even tell me how much your insurance policy is for. I'm going to hear what you want. I'm going to put it down on the contract. If you have money left over, praise God. If not, that's on you, because I'm giving you what you asked.
Yeah.
So my approach to serving families is totally different.
you
I
just
want
said
to find
no.
a good funeral home.
Huh?
Like, how do you navigate finding a good funeral home when that happens? Especially like some people probably call the one that's local, but like what are some tips on actually like finding one that's gonna care like how you care?
Yeah, you have to be intentional. And I tell people all the time, people don't go down to the random restaurant just because it's down the street. They're going to look at the reviews. They're going to do research. They're going to find out from other people what they think about that restaurant. And then they're going to go. it's time out for people going to a funeral home just because their mother and aunts and all them. When you know every time you go to the funeral home, the cases look horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally, if you're not going to go and spend your money at a store, at a restaurant, and they consistently give you horrible service, why in the world will that be the last time you see your loved one? So it's important for people to know Google is a very great tool. You can look at reviews. I have almost 200 5-star reviews where people literally name myself, my COO, my crematory manager. Like we are named in our reviews for the work we've done. Now, of course, I have like 2 or 3 on there of people that's just decided to get on there to try to mess up my perfect review.
Yeah.
And I call them out. I didn't even serve you. You're probably one of my competitors or one of my colleagues. Have a blessed day. You know?
Yeah.
But Google is an excellent tool to find the best funeral home for you. And I answer my phones 24 hours a day, either myself or my staff. You're not going to call us and get an answering service. How disrespectful is it for you to call your mother or father or spouse has just passed and you get, thank you for calling XYZ funeral home. Please hold. I'm going to hold. So we actually answer the phones ourselves 24 hours a day.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's dope. And like you said, I mean, the service that you all provide, and you talked about the fact that you earlier you were talking about, the fact that you want to view things, I guess, from an aspect of how you would want your family members to be treated as well. That shows that you have a different level of care. And I think when you talked about the budget, I kind of because of what I do, I negotiate every day. When somebody asks you what your budget is, people, I'm telling you, I don't care whether it's whatever service it is, or if you're buying a car, whatever it is. If they ask you what your budget is, I would advise you not to disclose that information, because they're gonna try to run it up.
They're gonna meet that budget.
Yeah,
right. Miraculously, you only got $2 left. But speaking about doing taking it to the next level, I just opened my on-site crematory at the funeral home, and so I'm the first woman in Tarrant County to have my own crematory.
Okay.
And the reason why I did that was I want to be able to provide families the opportunity to either witness the cremation, which means they actually see that it's their loved one that's going into the retort, because that's important. Yeah. It's hard for people to even sleep at night wondering, was that my loved one that I actually have in an urn?
That's a real question.
Yeah. So we actually have a viewing room now where people can come, they can eat, they can see us with their loved one in the retort. It's nothing invasive. We close the door and then we close the blind. And while their loved one is being cremated, they can have a gathering, a fellowship, and all of that. We actually process their loved one, and they actually walk out with the urn in their hand. And so we actually have that now. We can live stream it. We have families that don't want to see all of that, but they want to see their loved one last time without their loved one being embalmed. Yeah. So now we have the opportunity for them to do what's called an ID viewing, to make sure that they see their loved one last time and know that that's their loved one that's being cremated. So I believe in taking things to the next level, and that's what we're doing now. And we're doing very well.
Okay, so I got big questions about the cremation process.
Okay,
I had a question. Yeah,
we know it ends up in ashes. We know how it ends, but can you talk to us about the process? Like
that's my question.
Like, what's the process from when you get the body to to the end product of you putting it in the urn?
Okay, so cremation is a really, really fascinating process for me, because I'm a scientist, really. And so what happens is there's this big machine called a retort, okay? And the retort kind of looks like a pizza oven, kind of. It's a narrow machine. The door opens and you roll the person's loved one inside of the retort and you close the door, okay? And then the machine that I have calibrates. We put in the weight. We put in a type of container. and then it calibrates the temperature, it calibrates the length of time that it needs to be cremated. And then in the middle of the process, we have to check on the cremation process to make sure that the person's loved one is burning, what's considered burning evenly. And then once we close back the door, then we complete the process. We pull the bones out, because in cremation, everything burns away except for metals and your bones. Your bones cannot be burned, which is fascinating. Okay. Mm-hmm. So your tissue, your muscles, everything is burned away. Your bones are brought out and they're put in a processor, which is basically like a really big blender, but it's a processor, and it processes it down to very fine ash. And then we load the urn or whatever the families have purchased. We load that, and then we give that to the families.
Okay, so the body ashes and the bone go in there, or just the body?
So the body that you rolled in, when it comes out, is just your skeleton. So it's your skeleton. It's any metal rods or metal pieces that may be in your body, gold that's in your mouth. Those things usually don't burn away. And so whatever doesn't burn away in your body is pulled out of the retort and placed in the processor. We separate the metal pieces out that shouldn't be processed, and then we put them into the urn, and then we give the families the urn.
Okay, so what I'm saying is the ash is that the bones, or
Yes.
is that the body?
So all this is gone.
Gone. Okay.
Burned away.
Okay.
Burned away. Yeah.
So what's in the urn is just the bones.
Just bones.
Okay. All right. See, that's interesting to know, because I didn't know that, because I didn't know what was actually in the urn, and that's good to know that it's just the bones. So it's just the skeletal. Okay.
Yep.
See, we're learning something, people.
So the reason why the bones don't burn.
Our bones just don't burn. I don't know the scientific reason. I don't know that, but I know that bones do not burn.
I'm about to be Googling that. I want to know.
I can answer that question next time.
My little curious mind. I like science and chemistry and whatnot. So, yeah.
Okay.
I want to know.
So we have one question that's interesting. Jody Skywalker said, "How hot is the fire?"
Yes. So the fire gets up to like 1,800 degrees.
Ooh.
Super hot. Super hot.
Yeah. That definitely is. So with this service, because growing up, I didn't hear a bunch about cremations. You see a lot of funerals, so it seems as if, in my adulthood, I've heard a lot more as time has gone on that, more and more people are choosing that route. Have you seen an uptick in people choosing cremation over traditional funeral services?
Absolutely. So I would say about 10 years ago, we were only about 10-15% cremation. It was really considered taboo, especially in, the African-American community. Cremate. Yeah, right. Don't burn me.
Yeah.
Right. However, as cemetery costs have started to go up, people are like, okay, do I really want to put $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 in the ground? And that's just for cemetery costs. That's not even on the funeral side. What I want families to know is cremation was never designed for you or the consumer to negate the funeral aspect. You can still have a full funeral, embalming, dressing, casketing, the casket, flowers programs, limos, all of that. The only difference is that when the service concludes, we don't go to the cemetery, we go to the crematory. Mm-hmm. And so what was happening about 5 or 6 years ago, people were direct cremation. And what people were finding was, after they did the direct cremation, psychologically, they were like, did my loved one really die? Because one moment I saw them alive, and the next moment they're in a box. Mm-hmm. And so there are psychologists that have done research years and years ago that said that funeral services, either as viewing, visitation, or traditional funeral, is a way for your mind to conceptualize that your loved one has passed. Mm-hmm. And it allows those survivors to surround you to give you the support that you need in order to transition and get through the grieving process. So now that's why people are starting to do service with cremation and just cut out the cemetery costs and just go straight to cremation.
Okay. Okay.
That's what we did for my uncle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense because I mean, at the end of the day, everybody has different levels of life insurance and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
and some people have way more than others. So everybody can't afford, to go to the nth degree. And like you said, some people just don't want to put that much money into the burial.
They
I
don't
did
want to
not
do
know
it.
it was $10,000 to bury somebody. That's enlightening.
Listen,
So
Dallas Fort Worth cemeteries are cutting up. Like there is one cemetery in Mansfield that you can spend about $1,970 for the package, which is the opening and closing, the plot, and the box that the casket has to go in. It's called an out of burial container. Everybody else, you're gonna drop at least $3,500 and up, and that 35 is gonna get you in the back of the park usually.
mm,
So cemetery is very expensive, especially here in Dallas Fort Worth. So that's why a lot of people are like, let me go ahead and cremate. And I also wanted to make sure I mention we're actually having a grand opening of the crematory September 24th, and we're going to be doing tours and doing this same type of education for families that want to actually come in and see the actual retort. You actually want to see the process. You want to see how we do things. We're going to have that on the 24th.
okay, that's like I said. I mean, all this stuff is interesting to me because I'm like, it's a lot of this stuff that you feel like but like until you ask a question, then
Yeah.
you get all this information. You're like, man, that changes my whole view of certain things. And I know that the cremation part of it is something that you all are doing, and that's new. But do you have any other signature services for your actual location that you could talk about?
Yeah, so we are known for we actually I've been making arrangements in people's homes for years. Before COVID, before we had to have, all of the a maximum number of people in the building, I'm actually one of the only funeral homes in the country that has a prayer and meditation garden where we actually have services outside. And so
Mm,
during COVID, that served me really well. We didn't have to shut down. We didn't have to have any restrictions. We just had all the services outside. And so that's one of the main things that we have. We still do that to this day. We have a garden service coming up soon. They're going to do it really early in the morning because, of course, it's super hot. But come
Mm-hmm.
September, from September, end of September to end of January, all of our services are outside because I have a fountain, the casket of the urns in front of the fountain, and it is absolutely beautiful. We have the pastor, we have music, we have everything that you could possibly have outside. So that's signature. And another thing is we go to people's homes. We actually go pick up the clothing for the homes. We actually go and make arrangements in the homes. We do everything that we need to minimize families going back and forth. It's amazing how funeral homes make families go back and forth. Bring the pictures, bring the clothing, bring
Yeah.
the. I send my staff, or I go to the house. We deliver the death certificates to the families. Our job is to make this as stress free as possible. So we're like, sit down, we got you.
That's really good because it's a stressful process along with everybody's emotions and dealing with everyone else. So that's good to hear.
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. The garden service piece of it is definitely interesting too, because I mean I haven't ever been to a funeral outside, at all. Period. So
Oh, I have. Yeah.
well, I mean, you in Cali, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like that's a little
I don't
different.
think about it like a few of
Yeah,
them been
that's a little
outside.
yeah. But
Hmm.
I haven't seen too many outside, funerals here in Texas, unless you have like a graveside service or something like that.
Hmm.
But
Right.
actual have it to be other than
Like a
the
whole
grave
setup. Yeah.
graveside. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. So yeah, I'm happy that you're getting that information out there because there
Right.
might be somebody listening or somebody who watches this episode that is interested in those type of services. And like I said again, none of us want to think about it, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a reality for us all at some point in time. So
Yeah.
it's good to know this information for one reason or another.
Right.
So I got another question. This is always one of those things that comes up when, because I have family members that have passed away, and in my family, that's a lot of tall people. And
Hmm.
I'm not talking about 6 foot. I'm talking about extremes. You know what I'm saying? Like, 6'8", 6'9".
Hmm.
I myself am 6'5". So when you have people like that, like I'm looking at the casket, I'm like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. So
Like they got
talk
one for you.
yeah, so talk to us about, like, are there different size caskets for different people, different extremes? Like, how does that work?
Yes. So they have, of course, baby, infant, child
Yeah,
caskets.
Yeah.
Then they have the I
no,
know those are really
those
difficult.
are sad to see.
Those are really sad.
Yeah.
I think I posted on Facebook about a week ago that
I
we
saw that.
actually had 11. Well, at the point we had 9 babies
I saw that.
that we were families that we were serving. Now we're at like 13 or 14.
And see, that
So,
right there is why I chose. I actually thought about this field for a little bit, but that right there was the deal breaker for me. So,
mm,
Yeah.
I can't do the kids. I'm sorry, but
Kids.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's difficult for me because I have had 2 miscarriages. So my staff understands that, and so they give me grace and they take care of it for me. That's
No,
just
that's
a
good.
sidebar. But even I'm human. I've been doing this for years, and I still cry. I still get emotional. I think about my parents passing, and I still get emotional. So
Yeah.
it's human. But caskets. So then, when it comes to the adult caskets, we have the normal size casket. I think the usual length is like 84 inches. I could be a little bit off on that. But if we have someone that's taller than that, then what the embalmer will do, they can do a couple things. They can bend their legs, because if you think about a casket, the top of the casket is domed, most of them. So there's space. The casket's not flat, so there's space. So the embalmer will either bend their legs, or they'll try to position their legs to a way where they're bent inside the casket. Now there are some casket companies that do have extra long caskets, but see, when you do that, there is a standard size grave.
Mm.
And if you get a casket that's longer or wider than the standard size grave, then you end up having to pay for 2 graves. And cemeteries don't budge on that, because if you encroach on somebody else's space, that's
Mhm.
money that they're losing. So you have to pay for that space. So what we ask families, especially for our people who are wider than 24 to 26 inches, we say, okay, we can get a casket up to this certain size. Most graves will allow the outer burial container and the casket to be up to like 29 and like a quarter or 3/4. After that, you have to get what's considered a oversized casket. And that's when you get into having to buy 2 or 3 grave spaces, depending on the width of the person.
Let
And the
me
width
measure.
goes from elbow to elbow. People think it's shoulder to
Oh, because
shoulder.
these stick out further.
Yeah, but when you
Yeah.
have your arms folded, your elbows, and you got
Mhm.
to think about, we have to compensate, because remember, you're laying down. And
Yeah.
so when you're laying down, everything spreads out. And so you then have to put your arms over your body that's spread out. And so it's elbow to elbow.
That makes a
Mm.
lot of
And
sense.
so,
I'm about measuring tape out.
yeah.
I'm
So
gonna
we
take
have
it
to
out.
we have to have an honest conversation with families. Like, listen, you can get this standard size casket, but your loved one's going to be in there looking like this.
Yeah.
You might, if you don't want that, you need to spend a little bit more money so they are more relaxed in the casket. And then if they are right on the 29 and a quarter, where we might have to go over to 30, like, listen, you're going to have to talk to the cemetery to see if they're willing to give you a little bit more room, because I have nothing to do with that. And that's when
Yeah.
the conversations get a little difficult.
Whew. Okay, so yeah, so when that time comes for me, y'all, your boy gonna be in there looking like he about to do sit ups, because they're gonna have to fold my legs up. I got to fold my
They ain't
legs
gonna
up.
see it. It's okay.
Got to
They
fold
won't
my
see you.
legs
You'll
up.
be neck down. I mean, waist down.
Right.
Yeah. No, but I mean, these are like I said, these are legit questions because when you go to a service, you're thinking about these things when you're looking, and like I said, for us, we laugh all the time about unbigging our backs. Well, people, you
That's
might
what
need
I'm saying. That's
to
why we get.
unbig your back before that time comes
I
because
need
you gonna cost your family extra money because your back is wide.
see
Unbig your back. You better.
the big backs is equating to a whole lot more than just your summer bathing suits.
Yeah, yeah, actually,
Hey,
it is.
big backs is gonna cost your family.
Yeah,
Listen, we do
yeah.
all we can to bind them up and wrap. Listen, but sometimes it just does not work.
And then
Yeah.
doesn't the embalming fluid anyway also kind of gives them a little bit more, thickness back to them. So what?
Not supposed to. Well, it depends. So if the person is what we call emaciated, where their skin or they've lost a lot of
Yeah,
muscle mass to their body, then there are some things we can put in the fluid to kind of bring back the pliability of their skin. We can do
right.
that. But it's not supposed to blow them up. If they blow them up, that's a problem. And I've seen where I try not to say bodies, but the loved ones, I'm like, who embalmed this body?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Yeah, I've had those where I go and I look and I'm like, man, whatever funeral home this is, nah,
whoa,
stay away from it.
yeah,
Stay away from it. So I mean, I hate to, look at, someone's loved one and they're not looking in the best state,
right,
at that point in time in that presentation. So, but it happens, like you said. So even
yeah,
if you're the best, sometimes there's things that prohibit
yes,
you from doing your best work. So, it could just be one of those situations as well. So,
yeah. We are all human, and my embalmer and my staff, they're human, and I try my best not to ever ridicule people's work because I don't know what the background is to that. And I've actually had some of my students that own funeral homes say, Christy, the person didn't come out right. Can you send somebody to come and help? And we've actually gone behind the scenes and put our heads together to figure out the best way to color correct or what have you. That's what I mean. It shouldn't be a competitive spirit. It should be
yeah,
colleagues working together to serve the community.
yeah.
man,
It should be. I mean, especially with people's loved ones, like
yeah.
help me help this family,
Yeah.
instead of trying to be out here going for each other's throats.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Christy is so dope, y'all. Christy is so dope. I mean, just the things that she's talked about today. I mean, how can you not, what I'm saying, love a person who has such a heart like hers? Because I'm telling y'all, I mean, it's a lot of funeral homes out there. And she's saying, no competition for her and things
Right.
like that. And when I know those other funeral homes are thinking everybody's competition, and like she said before, it's a lot of these funeral homes that just process. It's just like putting paper in a copy machine and just doom 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 doom, just
Yep.
getting them in and out,
Yeah.
and they're not really showing you the proper care for your loved one and for the family. So they leave you feeling empty because of the simple fact of the service didn't go the way it was supposed to go, or you just felt like you were a number and they really didn't care. So
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think the work that she's doing is important. And I think the attitude that she takes and the approach, what I'm saying, is definitely important
Yeah.
in the process. So yeah, definitely that.
Makes it easy.
Yeah.
Makes it easy to trust because you want to trust, who you're sending your loved one to. Shoot, I'm like, I wish she was out here. I haven't needed it.
But I know
Okay.
some people out in Cali that are excellent.
There we
So
go.
I got you.
Okay. So let me get weird for a second, right?
Okay.
All right. What about these these services where you see people, propped up on motorcycles, people playing video games with a blunt in their mouth, like people standing up against the wall like they posted up in the club? Talk to us about those type of services. I don't know if you all offer those services, but if you do or if you don't, can you shed a little light on those type of services and how they
And what
prepare
is
those bodies and what they do with them after that?
Yeah. So I get asked about that all the time, and what I say to each their own. At Mansfield Funeral Home, we do our best to honor what the family wants. However, we have to make sure that we are respectful as well.
Mm.
So I have had families come to me and ask me, what's the craziest thing that we can do with my loved one. I asked them, okay, what do you consider to be crazy? Because crazy is relative.
Yeah.
So what do you think is crazy?
Yeah.
And I do my best to meet them in the middle. Can my embalming team, can we prop someone up? Can we put them on a motorcycle? We can do all of those things. However, that is a liability that I am not willing to take on. And I would gladly refer them to a funeral home that will do it for them. However, once I finish talking to them about other ways to honor their loved one's life where it's not such a spectacle, then
Right.
I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let's do it this way. So I believe in listening and doing all that I can for what according to what the families want, but then I will turn around and put in my 2 cents. And then if they agree with me, let's roll. And if they don't, I will gladly refer them to a funeral home that will do it for them. But 9 times out of 10, they stay with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only other weird one I had was there was a phenomenon. I think it was in Cali too, but I know it was a spot in Texas somewhere where they had drive-through funerals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you ever heard of that? And what? It's not funny, y'all, but I just it, I go back to the video of which I saw. There was a news story, and to paint the picture for you, why I'm laughing because there was a lady who drove up through the drive-through, kind of like you were driving through McDonald's or something,
Mm-hmm.
and the body was laying in the window, kind of at an angle where
Uh-huh.
you could see it. And she drove up and just looked at him and shook her head, and said, "I was like, bruh, what are we coming? What is the world going?
Well, that's
What are we
another
coming
door.
to when we have a drive-through funeral, like
That's COVID.
drive-through viewing,
Yeah.
right? I guess for me, it's nothing wrong with it, but it's just so odd, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, have you ever heard of that? And talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh yes, I've heard and I've seen it. I can't remember what state I was in. I've never seen it in Texas. I don't know if it was in Memphis, Tennessee. I don't remember where I was, but I'd heard about it and I saw it. I think it's an interesting concept. There are people that are terrified, like literally terrified to go
Yeah.
into funeral homes, but they
Mm,
still want to pay respect. They still want to see their loved one or their friend, and this is an opportunity for them to do so. So whoever came up with that, I think it's a great idea. It's not for everybody, so I respect those who have the guts to try it because you have to really reconfigure your funeral home to be able to get that casket into
Yeah.
that room, prop it up where it's at an angle for people to drive through and hope they don't run into the window and all those things. That's a big investment. So it's kind of funny, but I think it's actually genius. And I think it's a great idea. And during COVID,
That's yeah.
listen, they probably did very, very well, during COVID. And like I said, there are people out there that don't want to step foot. I've had people like literally stand outside of my door and I've had to go out and I've had to hold their hand, walk them in, pray over them, and literally they finally calm down. But there's this fear of walking to a funeral home. It's just a big house that happens to have your loved one in it. And if I'm not afraid and I'm here every day, you shouldn't be afraid. And that usually calms them down.
yeah. And speaking of that, being afraid of a funeral home, that brings to mind one of my favorite TikTok videos. It's that song, "Hey, Hey," and the guy is closing the funeral home at night, and he's walking out singing the song, and he says, "Hey," and somebody in the back where there's not supposed to be anybody there says, "Hey," says, "Hey," back, and I think for
Oh,
me, like, I guess if you were at closing the funeral home at night and everybody's supposed to be gone and you heard some noise or something, I don't know.
Yeah, that's not abnormal though. I've been not really in the funeral home, but even as a child, I would see, people walking around. I've seen angels. I told my mom, there's somebody sitting right there in the chair. My mom's like, no, it's not. So I've seen things like that. I believe in spirits,
Mm,
and that's why I stay covered in prayer to make sure that my mind and my heart and everything is guarded against that. But I believe that there's spirits all around us. But I've seen that skit on social media and it's hilarious. And my crematory manager Kevin, he actually did that at the funeral home, and it went almost viral. So it was great.
Yeah, so he might have been. That
I'm
might have
like,
been the
it's
one I
probably him.
saw. Yeah, so
Probably.
it was pretty funny, but yeah, like I mean, there are certain things, when you think about, what I'm saying, funeral homes and things like that. It's always a sad thing, but there are things you could do to bring light to it, and like they say, a lot of times when you have the services, it's not just a sad thing; it's a celebration of transition. So it's another way to look at things, but I mean, at that time, sometimes you're not really trying to hear that because
Yeah.
you're emotional at that
Right.
point. But
Right.
we got some questions from the audience that we want to
Okay.
pause for a second and answer some of these questions that are popping up because I want to transition to you said something about during the pandemic, and we want to talk about that. We're gonna
Yeah.
put a
Okay.
pin in it for a second because I know that affected everybody's businesses and they had to pivot. So,
Mhm.
but okay, we got got a question from Corey Smallwood. He said, "Do they cut clothes, shoes when they dress your loved one? What about gluing and sewing lips and eyes?"
Mm,
Oh, they got it.
that's a great question. So, clothing. It is customary for us to cut the back of the clothing because it allows us to place the clothing on the person and to custom fit the clothing to the people to their loved one. Now, at our funeral home, we have had families that say we don't want the clothes cut, and we can do it without cutting. So it just depends on the practice of that funeral home. It can be done or not. But if you're gonna bring in like a really tight fitted blazer, or there's no way we can have somebody that's passed and put it on there. And so we're very transparent. They'll say we don't want you cutting the clothes. We said we will do our best. Do you want us to let you know if we have to cut? Like, no, but just try not to. We would do our best not to. And then my staff would say, Christy, we've done everything we could. We have to cut the clothing. Okay, go ahead and cut, but we will do our best to honor their wishes.
Okay.
As far as gluing the eyes, so every embalmer has their own technique. There are some embalmers that glue. There are some of eyes and mouths. However, depending on your skill as an embalmer, as you're embalming that person, you should be able to set their features in a natural way where you don't have to glue the eyes. What we do use are what's called eye caps, which are caps that go on top of the eyeball. And then it kind of helps to keep the shape of the eyeball. And then we close the lid over that. And then that keeps the eyes closed properly, where it looks like a more natural appearance. Because once you glue, if that glue seeps out or what have you, it is
Right.
very hard to get glue off of skin. If it's that close, then when you're doing makeup, then the makeup gets stuck in the glue and it looks a mess. And so at my firm, we do not glue eyes or
Okay.
our lips unless we absolutely have to.
Okay.
So sewing, I have heard of people sewing eyes and lips. I wouldn't suggest it because when you're sewing, you cause, the ripple,
Mm.
effect unless you can sew
Mhm.
really, really well, but we don't sew. But some people I've heard of it, but that was like an old school way.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't imagine seeing that because how do you conceal? I mean, it's what clear, but
Wax.
you're still going to be able to tell in some way.
There's a way to conceal it. You can use wax to
Mhm.
conceal it. However, I would just say just use an eye cap or just use glue if
Yeah.
you have to.
All right. So while we're talking about skin,
Uh-huh.
we got some other questions. I'm going to ask those, but also let me ask this: touching the body during the
Mm.
service, right? That's a big thing, right? And I don't do that, but I see a lot of people do it. So is that something that you should do or that you shouldn't do? Like, what do you suggest people do at your firm as you refer to it?
So at Mansfield Funeral Home, we are very, very big on disinfecting. So we bathe your loved one before the process, during the process. It's a constant bathing to make sure that the exterior of your loved one's body is as clean as possible. However, when someone is embalmed, that embalming fluid is going through your system, and sometimes it can permeate through the skin, depending on if we have to hypo or what have you. And this person has still passed; they're still dead, and so you have to be careful what you allow on your body and in your body. I actually, this was not at my funeral home, but years ago, about 20 years ago, this lady literally tongue kissed her husband. And I was like, sis, I was sitting there like, don't do that. Don't. Well, if you've embalmed him, he's clean. That's my husband. I'm like, but still. So I tell people now, especially pregnant women, if you want to touch your loved one, they're embalmed. I know that we disinfected. Go wash your hands.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to kiss your loved one, that's fine. Go disinfect your lips. We ask them to go get the hand sanitizer. We ask, and I know how clean we are. I can't speak for other firms out there that may not be as clean as we are. So if you want to touch your loved one, do so, but go wash.
Y'all heard that? Because I mean, I'm just saying, I see it all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm OCD when it comes to touching stuff. Period. So definitely, I'm watching and seeing if you're touching, and if you're touching and you touch me, I'm going straight to the restroom. Like hands
Don't
down.
touch
I
me.
mean, yeah, no, hey, no, it's not a game. Like I just can't do it. So don't be offended. You know what I'm saying? I still love you, but I gotta go wash my hands. So
Right.
it just is what it is.
I
Okay,
won't even touch
so
my own loved ones that I've buried and I've taken care of. If I won't touch them, and I know how clean we are, just don't do it. Like just look and keep walking. All the touching and
Yeah.
stuff, but to each his own.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, indeed. All right. So we have another one, another question. Nicole Ivory or Nikki Ivory, can you all refer if someone wants to be mummified? That's an interesting
Hmm.
question.
Is that
That's a
legal?
great question. So I've never had that question. What I would do, so if you ask me if you could be mummified, I would do all the research I could possibly can do, and I would come back to you with a vendor that could do it, or I would give you ways that we could get you as close to mummification. Because what do you mean by mummification? We know about King Tut and Cleopatra and what we've seen on TV. They were embalmed in a way that preserved their bodies and then they were wrapped.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a modern way that my firm can embalm you and shroud you and wrap you in a certain way. So let's talk about what you think, what your idea of mummification is about, and let's see how my staff and I can serve you.
These some good
Wow.
questions.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nah, I
Things
mean,
that I ain't thought of.
yeah, I didn't think about the mummification at all, at all. So okay, that's interesting,
Yep.
and the fact that that I love the fact that Christy doesn't say we can't do that. She is solution oriented.
She gonna
Yes.
figure it out
She gonna figure
or
it
find
out
who does.
of offer you something that's comparable, and that's what you want to, and that's how you do good business, as people
That's
say.
good customer
That's how you
service.
do good business, because you don't want to turn away customers, and a lot of times people will scour the earth trying to find something that doesn't exist when you just could have offered something comparable that what I'm saying would have sufficed at that moment. So we thank you. We appreciate you for being a solution oriented person.
Thank you. And I believe
Absolutely.
in transparency. I'm not gonna tell my families I can do it if I don't absolutely know that I can do it. And if I don't have an answer, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna give you a answer just to give you something. I'm gonna say, you know what, I don't know, but I can find out. And that's
Yeah.
important. That's what you want when you're dealing with stuff like this. You don't want somebody guessing and trying to figure it out as they go. I've dealt with probably every culture that that's in the DFW Metroplex, and I'll have somebody new come in. I'm like, you know what? I don't know anything about this, but I guarantee you, I'm going to call somebody that does. I'm going to do the research, and you won't ever know that I didn't know when we met today. And when everything is over, they're like you've been doing this for years because I've been praying, meditating. I've practiced. My staff has practiced. I paid for a consultant to walk me through it, and now I can do it myself.
That's a That's the way you
Look,
run a
that's high
business.
quality right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
that's the way you run a business. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And okay, we got another question. This is a
Okay.
good question too. Corey Smallwood, my guy, C Wood, coming over to all these good questions. All right, what about reconstruction? What do you use if someone has damaging facial fractures? Yeah, reconstruction. That's a good question. Talk to us about that. What do you all do to help? What I'm saying, reconstruct people's face and things like that.
Yeah, so the amazing thing about my staff is that we're actually award winning for reconstruction. And we will be celebrating 7 years of being since I acquired Mansfield on Friday, 7 years Friday. And out of 7 years, I have only had one closed casket. And
Wow.
that was because the person was a burn victim that was burned beyond recognition. There was absolutely nothing we could do.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
had people that have been that were dead 3 weeks that had completely almost deteriorated, and we've actually rebuilt their faces. We've had suicide victims, hangings, gunshots, machete. We've had it all, and we have been able, praise God, because we were able to serve that family in excellence. We've been able to reconstruct their faces. How we did that? You can use wire. There's mesh. There's molding clay. There's different types of gauze. There's makeup. There's concealer. It just depends on the type of wound, and we have to know what we're dealing with. So the family will say, okay, we don't think that our loved one can be viewed, and I'll tell them, let us be the judge of that. So
Okay.
when my staff goes to place their loved one into our care, they'll look at them then and call me and say, no, there's nothing we can do except do this. And so we'll figure out something else. And we've been very blessed to have been able to figure out creative ways. And if there's something that we can't do, I have no problem flying somebody in or putting somebody on FaceTime, and they will walk us through, okay, I've had this before. You need to do this, and this. And if the FaceTime is not working, how much is it going to cost to get you on a plane to come down here? I'm open to that as well. I don't ever want to tell a family that we have to have a closed casket. If it has to be a closed casket, it's literally nothing that can be done.
Okay, so with you saying like say for instance, if you had to fly somebody in,
Mhm.
so is that something that is that a cost that the family would incur, or is that something that is covered by the funeral home?
No, no, no. I paid for that either out of my pocket, or the funeral home will pay for it, because I believe in a certain level of excellence. And if I'm telling the family that they're going to have an open casket and their loved one is going to look a certain way, I will tell them it's going to take us this many hours to reconstruct your loved one. And I have in my general price list, I think it's like $175 an hour. Well, if I have to fly them in, that 175 an hour is just to do the work. It's not for the flight, their hotels, and things like that. So if I didn't
Yeah.
quote that to them, I'm not going to charge them for it. I stick with
Wow.
what I don't go. I try not to go back and have to readjust my criteria.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm blown away
Yeah. I'm
because
like,
like,
that's amazing.
when it's hard to find people who do good business these days, right?
Absolutely.
And who actually stick by the product and who actually, are willing to go to the links that you are speaking of, that you go to for your families, and that's amazing. I'm not lying. Like I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, wow. Like somebody out there is actually doing this with their business. This is top notch.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, it really
Top
is.
notch.
And she's from Oak Cliff.
Okay. Hey, the best place on earth. Shout out to Oak Cliff, Texas, baby. All right. All right. So let's talk about the pandemic for a minute before we start to wrap up. The pandemic made everybody pivot. The pandemic for me helped birth this show. So and it changed a lot of things in a lot of people's lives. But I know for the world, it shook things up, and for your business, it might have caused some pivot, or it might have caused an uptick in service. What I'm saying, because of the people that were passing away. So,
Yeah.
what kind of changes did you have to make during that time, and how did it affect your firm?
So I am really big on meditation. I meditate every morning, and I always ask for discernment to know how to be proactive in my business. To me, one of the worst things as an entrepreneur is to be reactionary to everything.
Mm.
So, well before the pandemic, I had already instituted live streaming. I had already instituted talking to families via FaceTime. I had already instituted going to families' homes. So when COVID hit, I was already all the funeral homes that were scrambling trying to figure out and paying the high premiums of these streaming services. It was already in place. And so families who we had served before already knew what we offered, and so they came right back. Now, for the demographic that I served, we had a lot of COVID families that were dealing with COVID, but not as many as others that were in other parts of the DFW Metroplex. So there were some funeral homes that were having 60 every other day. I mean, their morgues were packed full of families. I mean, full of loved ones. Praise God, we were able to serve and we were able to keep a steady flow of families in and out. We didn't have any, major overflow. As soon as we got like five to six families in at one time, we had places to put them respectfully. We were able to take care of them. I was able to use my vendors and leverage my relationships to help. So we pivoted by being able to just strengthen the processes that we already had. And then it kind of helped me to see that families, once we came out of what we thought was coming out of the pandemic, it really left a lot of people fragile, and it really gave people some PTSD when it came to kind of being around people. And so we have learned to allow people to just kind of come in and decompress. I've had people come in, they've sat down because it's the third loved one they've lost, and they are not mentally ready to make any decisions. I pray for them. I say, you know what? You're not ready to make any business decisions. Go home. Let's meet tomorrow. And so the pandemic has taught me how to be more consistent and patient with families, because they have a lot more going on than they had, because they're still dealing with losing their loved ones because of COVID. Now they have so many other people that they've lost. Mm-hmm. So we're more patient with families now.
That's good. She was ahead of her time already with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, a sign of a person who does amazing business. You know what I'm saying? If you're a business owner and you're the head of any organization, like, you have to see things before they actually come to fruition. So, you know what I'm saying? That's a sign that she's doing the right thing. So that's definitely dope.
Thank you.
Next question I have for you is, what's the most difficult thing about working in this field?
Ooh, I would say the older I get, working in the industry, I have more of a understanding of personal death. When I started 26 years ago, I had only lost one of my great grandparents. I had 5 generations alive for most of my childhood, so I knew my great grandparents. Wow. And so, only having that one death, I would go and serve families, and I felt for them, but I didn't really have a point of reference because I hadn't lost a child. I hadn't lost, the grandparent as an adult. I wasn't a grandchild sitting on the front row. So now that I've, had 2 miscarriages, now that I've lost, one of my best friends, 7-year-old died, and I had to, take care of her in that service. And another cousin has passed. My great grandmother just passed. And now when a grandchild cries, I know what that cry sounds like. When a mother who has lost their baby cries, I know what that wailing sounds like, because I went through that myself. So now I have more of a compassionate heart, and I've had to learn how to serve, but not get myself pulled into their grief. So I say that I don't show empathy for families, I show compassion, which means I can serve you, but I don't have to allow that to affect me, so that I can continue to be the best mom, the best friend, and the best woman for myself.
For those boundaries again.
Yeah,
Boundaries.
yeah,
Listen,
Mhm.
I
yeah.
just turned 45 last month, and since I turned 40, boundaries has been like the biggest thing for
Mhm.
me. And since I serve people, and that's what I've done like my whole life, I didn't realize how much I was putting other people's needs before mine. And I thought that I was just being the best person possible by doing that until I looked around and was like, oh, so now that I need something, there's nobody?
Your cup empty.
I'm empty.
Everybody.
They fill to the brim. So yeah, boundaries is major for me now.
That's dope, and y'all know we believe in that for sure, for sure.
Absolutely. I
So
love some boundaries.
hey, I mean, you live and you learn, and that's one of the things that you learn. You gotta have those boundaries no matter what. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So, what does it feel like to be able to get up every day and do something that you love and it's something that you're passionate about? Not everybody
It's
gets that opportunity.
Since she was a little kid.
it's amazing. Like I literally open my eyes. I'm like, thank you, Lord. You know, I thank God because I have a staff that has my back. You know, I have friends that have my back. I have family that have my back. And if I feel any kind of way, I can just pick up the phone and just call somebody, and they can help me center my mind back to what my purpose is. And being an entrepreneur has its ebbs and flows, of course, and but the lows are not as low because I'm doing it for myself. I've worked for other people. I've worked in corporate. I've worked for the government. I've done all of that. But to walk into my building and know that my name is on the mortgage and know that I have to live my life a certain way so that my entire staff can eat, it is an amazing feeling for me. I don't I look forward to living this life and just elevating it until the day I die.
That's some
Dope.
different level of peace right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. All right, so the next question, and we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. What's your
Okay.
ultimate goal? What's your ultimate goal for your business? Like,
Yeah.
do you want more locations, or are you just okay with the location you got? So, I mean, what does that look like? Your ultimate goal?
Ultimate goal. I just opened my crematory. I my ultimate goal is to create synergies in DFW Metroplex, and then to create and synergy meaning there are a lot of funeral home owners that don't have kids that want to take over the business, and so they're like, okay, what am I going to do with my business? I want to be that person to help continue their legacy, to partner with them or purchase a funeral home from them, and then allow my crematory to be the crematory to cremate for them, and just to create satellite offices around the Metroplex to serve people throughout the Metroplex. We already serve, but they're driving from Frisco and Saxe all the way to Mansfield, or we're driving to them. So my goal is to create satellite offices. Um, Another thing that's important to me is to help small business owners to make sure that they have the foundation that they need. I'm not just a funeral home owner, I'm actually a small business consultant as well. So I have an entrepreneurship class where I have budding entrepreneurs, people that want to be entrepreneurs that come, and I actually help them get all their paperwork together. I give them all of my contacts to make sure they have the foundation. These are things that I didn't have. My operating agreement that I had when I first opened with my business partners, who I've now bought them all out, so I'm 100% owner now. But my operating agreement I got off of a random site because I was so excited about opening up and not having the right operating agreement. I had to pay serious money to get things restructured. And so I want to take all those not mistakes, but those lessons that I've learned and pour that into the next group of entrepreneurs after me, and those who are before me that need to get some fine tuning. That's what I want to do next.
You know how hard it is
Wow.
to actually find somebody that will help walk you through so that you don't make the same mistakes that they have made to help you build your business foundation, because it's just not out there, because of course the world ain't set up for us to succeed when it comes to
Yeah,
society and whatnot, so they're not going to give it to you. You got to go find it, and most people don't want to give it to you because they competition and wherever else. So
right.
somebody just I'm out here so that I can make sure that people don't make the same mistakes as me, and that they can go ahead and grow their business ventures. That's golden, y'all.
Yeah, there are some funeral homes in DFW Metroplex. I've given them their first equipment they needed to open. I've actually put my license up to open them. This before I had Mansfield, but I've actually put my license up to open funeral homes in the Metroplex to help them. And if you need anything, if you need my staff, if you need my cars, whatever you need, let's serve families. Let's do it.
This is pure. Do y'all?
I'm still overwhelmed. Like, I
The
mean,
angel
it just continues. It just continues to overwhelm me. So, I mean, like I said, I can't even put it into words right now. It's rare that you find people who operate like Miss Christie Moore. It's rare. So,
Man.
you know, I'm loving it. I'm happy to see it. We got a couple of questions that just popped up. I want to
Let's
ask
do it.
these. I want to honor these people right quick,
Okay.
and then we'll wrap up. Because we know you busy person, and we appreciate your time. Corey Smallwood says, "I know she says she believes in spirits, but has she ever been spooked out?"
I think the only time I've been spooked out, it was not in my funeral home. I was working for someone else. I was in a funeral home by myself, and I was literally sitting at my desk, doing some work, and the door slammed. And I was in my 20s at the time, and I was like, "Whoa, what was that?" So I open up the door, don't see anything. There's no wind blowing, nothing like that. I sit back down, go back to work. The door slams again.
Oh yeah.
I got my stuff.
And
I got up out of there. I said, whatever's in here, y'all can have it. I'm good.
Y'all can keep that goodbye.
But you know, the way I cover myself from being spooked out is I understand that is just a part of the world. That's just a part of what it is. And as long as I understand, now one thing that does spook me out, if a sudden movement comes toward, I'm a very scary person. I can't do scary movies, and I cannot have anybody like do something that I'm not ready yet. See that? Ready for me to do. So people know, do not scare me. I will kick, scream, run, slap. So I'm a very scary person because I'm used to stuff being still.
That's what
I
she
have
just
a friend
said
like
is
that. I got a friend like that.
What she just said is weird though, right? Because she says she's a scary person, and for us, the average person, we feel that, you know, places like the funeral home is a scary place. So she's a scary person, and that's her line of work. So it but she said she's used to things being still, which things there are still.
Are still quiet.
Isn't there sometimes bodies little arm might jump or something before everything is all?
Good question.
Has that happened?
So okay, so the quick story is I was on a removal, and the person passed upstairs, and so it was a winding staircase, and there was no way we could get that cot upstairs. So the family member, without us even knowing it, actually picked up their loved one and was carrying them down the steps, right? So I was standing at the foot end of the cot. The person that was with me was standing at the head end of the cot. The person literally had just died like 30 minutes. So the loved one was still warm, right? Yeah. It was a woman that carried, because it was a really small lady. She laid her loved one on the cot, and the woman went, "Oh." And I'm used to that, but when the person did it, the person that was with me took off running.
That probably would have been me.
I want to say, you get yourself
right. You're supposed to be over here. Normal. Get over here and act like
that probably would have been me.
That was the last one he went on. He was like, "Count me out. I'm done."
It sounded like the body was relieved that it didn't get dropped coming down them stairs being carried. She was like,
but understand, that noise is called, the death rattle. All it is
I've heard that.
When we pass, everything stops. So whatever gas is in our body is trapped. And it can only come out of any hole that's in our body. So when it comes out, it goes across the vocal cords. And that's what you hear. You hear that. Or the body may twitch a little bit, but that's just involuntary, muscles or things like that. bodies don't sit up, gravity won't allow that, so that's a myth.
Movies are extra.
They have a set on me. But I've heard stories of people having babies in their morgues and they come back the next day and the babies are crying because sometimes it's hard to tell that the baby has actually passed because the heart rate is so faint. That's never happened to me, but I have heard that from reliable sources.
Oh no.
But I've never experienced that.
Wowzers.
Yeah. Or you pick up the baby from the hospital and the baby's in the carrier and then you get in the van and the baby's crying. Like, whoa. So I have heard of things like that, but it has not personally happened to me, no.
Oh, I know you glad it hasn't.
That's
No.
wild.
My family, my staff know. We get a baby call, they know, don't even tell me.
Yeah.
Let me know once we are having to meet with a family and
that part, right.
Yeah.
All the background stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. Woo.
That's real tough.
That's tough. And we also got a comment in here from Nikki Ivory, who she says she's an insurance broker, and she says she's definitely going to reach out to you about some things. So we had a couple of people mention in the comments as well that they're going to be, reaching out and they're going to be getting your information. It's people. It's not it's not an issue to have the information ready.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Especially in today's times. And then on top of that, if you have older parents and things like that or grandparents, it's good to have that information already ready because, you know, that time is going to come. And when that time does come, most of the time emotionally, you're not in a space to be, doing all this stuff. So that's where, people in a firm like Christie Moore has that,
she makes
her customer service is impeccable, right? So like you don't need to do all the ripping and running and all the stuff that some of these other places, we ain't gonna talk about those, but they had you doing. We gonna focus on what Miss Christie Moore has talked about today, and you need to reach out to her if you need those services. And even if she can't help you at that point in time, I'm pretty sure she can give you the right information to get you going on whatever information you need. Right. So, I mean, that's just the type of person she is. So,
and we also provide seminars for churches, fraternities, sororities. I'm a part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So, So, but I go to sorority meetings.
You can't say that and not make the sound.
You got to do your whole
You got to do the. Yeah, so you gotta do that. You gotta do that. It's just part of what if you come from HBCU, especially, like you have to say that and then you have to do that because that's what we're looking for.
Right. We gotta have a whole little.
My staff and I, we go anywhere that anybody's willing to listen. We can talk about pre-needs. We can talk about pre-needs versus life insurance. What works, what doesn't work, locking in the pricing. Pricing before COVID has significantly increased now after COVID because all the vendor fees have gone up. So those are things that I can talk to anybody about offline. And I also want to say, I'm not just all work. I love to have fun and play as well. My Amethyst Gala is coming up. It's on Thursday. Okay. And so there we go. And you see my celebrity artist that will be performing. Joe. Yes. So I am super excited to have that. And this is just an opportunity for people to see that a mortician like myself believes in living as well. Mm-hmm. And this will be my third gala that I've thrown. And the gala is to celebrate people who are in the community that are doing well, to give them that pat on the back. So I'm going to have like 7 or 8 people that I'm honoring, but it's also a time for people to let their hair down and to just enjoy themselves because my life is not just about death. It's about living and honoring those who are alive too.
There we go.
Ooh. See, she's
well-rounded.
Like they say, she is doing God's work out here. You know what I'm saying? She's doing a bunch of amazing things. And I mean, y'all, I'm still overwhelmed. Like it's rare that you meet people who are so genuine and are willing to help, especially in 2023. Y'all know what it is out here in these streets. People is out here for themselves and very selfish. You know what I'm saying? To see somebody who's selfless is a big deal. So we appreciate you coming through and blessing us with the information that you have
Absolutely.
and the entertainment that you provided as well, because it's been very entertaining, as well as I promised you. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? It wouldn't be, we just sitting up here talking, yeah, and Miss Christie, so how do you feel about this? You know what I'm saying? That's not the way we do things here.
I've
Yeah.
enjoyed
Right.
myself. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we like to have fun, and we like to give the people the information. And my last question that I like to end off with: is there any advice, anything inspirational or motivational that you would like to lead the audience with?
Yeah. My motivational piece would be just to live your life to the fullest. Whatever you ingest, as far as food, drinks, or what have you, whatever you purchase, clothing, cars, what have you, do it in the spirit of joy and peace. Don't have any regrets for anything, because when you close your eyes, when you are laying on my table or somebody's table, any concerns or issues that you had prior to you closing your eyes will mean nothing. So the best thing for you to do is to live your life to the fullest. Be educated on the funeral industry before you find yourself at that table, because that is the prime time for you to be taken advantage of. Know who you prefer before you have to make that phone call, and choose Mansfield Funeral Home.
Right.
Yeah, I was just about to say, let the people know where they can find you, because
Yeah.
we got people asking for your information in the comments, and we also got some dudes in there asking, "Is she single? Is she?" Hey, man, we don't do that. We don't do no love connection here. If you want to reach out to her on your own,
Y'all
that
better
goes
get it together,
that
cause
goes for her or. That goes for her, or the same rules I have for Trisha Michelle. I'm not hooking you up,
leave her
so
alone.
reach out on your own. I have nothing to do with that. Miss Christie Ward, tell the people how they can get in contact with you.
Yes. So you can find me on Facebook. Um, Mansfield Funeral Home is the handle. IG Mansfield at Mansfield Funeral Home. I give my cell phone number out to everybody. It's a public thing. So my cell phone number is 972-805-7844. And that is for you to text me if you have questions or concerns about the industry.
So don't get blocked.
And our website is mansfieldfuneralhome.com. And what else? If you want to come to the Amethyst Gala, amethystgala.com is this Thursday, August 10th. We start promptly at 6. Joe goes on at 9, but it's open bar. It's a multi-course meal, and we have a lot of surprises in store. And if you want to go, the tickets are going super fast. So go ahead and jump on there and get those tickets. And I just really enjoyed myself. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you. It's
Thank
a lot
you,
of educational information with the fun.
y'all.
Yes,
I'll
I would
I'll
love
be
to come
I'll
back.
be I'll be put. Oh yeah, that's one thing we do. We do with this show. Everybody that we have on, we tell them to just
Stay
stay
ready.
tuned, cause stay ready, cause we gonna hit you up, and we know that Miss Christie can talk about more than just this industry. Now we see her personality, so we'll definitely have her on to talk about some other things, because I follow her on social media, and she's really into the health thing too. So we got some other subjects that we got coming, so we might need to pull you for that too. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So we can have those discussions as well, because we love your personality and we know you're a genuine person. We
Thank
love that.
you.
We love
Yeah.
genuine, fun, life living people.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, we appreciate you joining us. Y'all reach out to them if you need the services, if you have questions, if you have anything you need. Fellas, I don't know. I'm not telling you to call her. I'm not telling you to text her, whatever. That's on your own.
Oh,
Again,
they scramble for them pins.
listen,
Like,
listen, that has nothing to do with the fire session. So, Miss Christy Moore, uh, if they call you, we didn't send them. That's
I
on their
understand.
own.
It's cool. I'm a
So,
grown woman. I know. I
it,
understand.
hey, that is what it is. So again, we appreciate you. We're gonna let you go ahead and do what you need to do for this afternoon or for this evening, and we definitely gonna have you back. So we appreciate you.
yes, thank
Thank
you.
you. Blessings to both of y'all on this
Thank
podcast, in your individual lives, in your businesses, and to your co-hosts as well. Blessings to all of you all.
Yes, thank
Thank you.
you.
Oh, and I told Miss Christie I'm gonna have to pull up I'm gonna have to pull up to the facility, you know what I'm saying, so I could meet everybody there because let me throw this picture up. Let me throw this picture up. I had to pull this picture. Y'all, I gotta go see these people. I gotta go see these people. These people look amazing. They look
They fly.
yeah, they look amazing. You got amazing staff. So I
Yeah.
said I just want to pull up and meet the people and come ask some questions and be nosy.
Come on September 24th. We're gonna have a live
Oh yeah.
band at
Perfect timing.
the open house live band. We're gonna have delicious, I believe in delicious food and great drinks. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a good time. So come September 24th. It's a Sunday, 3 o'clock. You'll meet all of my staff. Everybody will be there. We're gonna have a great time.
There you
Yup.
go.
Okay, that's cool. That'll
So
work.
if you
And
look,
I'll
so the
definitely
picture
come
that
through.
you're looking at, that's actually on the right hand side. That's our garden, and to the right of that, where you see the pergola, that's
Mhm.
where the families sit, and we have the casket, and that building straight ahead is the crematory,
Mm.
and then to the right is the funeral home.
That's them,
That was nice. Yeah.
as the old folks say, them some facilities right there.
Okay.
Them some
I do
facilities.
everything top notch. I do my best to do everything top notch.
We see. We see.
Invested. See,
We see.
heaven sent.
Yeah, but we gonna let you. We gonna let you go. We enjoyed you. We enjoyed all the information. We'll
Yes.
definitely be in touch. We appreciate you. Nothing but love from the Fiyah Session,
Yes.
Thank you.
man.
Learned a lot.
I mean, I'm still a little emotional. You boy over here got his light skin feelings because it's rare that you find people who really care that much.
Man.
Period.
And on top of that, not only has she still balanced her boundaries, because that sometimes can make you draw back on what you give to people. She's found a way to still be selfless beyond compare and
Yeah.
still have her boundaries for herself. So that's amazing.
Her business is gonna be blessed
Oh yeah.
regardless because when you move like she's moving, I mean, man, I mean, I could see everything going tremendously well for her business and her personal lives because people it's rare that you find people with good hearts, man.
Right.
And she just seems like a genuine person. So yeah, I'm glad we did this interview and I'm looking forward to staying in contact with her because she just seems
Yeah,
like
for
good
sure.
people. So
Yeah.
we definitely want to keep people like that in our circle.
We love people like that. And everybody that's trying to get her number, she's heaven sent, she's doing God's work. And if y'all coming over there messing up the God's work that she doing in her piece, y'all better go somewhere.
Man, listen, like I said, y'all, if it's up to me, Big Ken, I'm gonna play protector and stay away from Miss Christie and stay away from Trisha Michelle. They don't need y'all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I ain't gonna hate, but I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? We gonna keep it business. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? All right, Trisha Michelle, talk to the people before we get up out of here.
Man, y'all, I was a little late, so I apologize. I don't know why. I really thought it was Wednesday. Let me tell you, I was chilling on the couch. I was real comfy, put a little show, my daughter and all that. But I'm here.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I let that happen. I have no clue. Anyway,
Yeah, with a Prince Purple Rain shirt looking like Apollonia out here.
Purple Rain, that's my thing, and then it became even bigger, like with the passing of my uncle. So like he's a guitarist and Prince and Purple Rain, all that stuff is like a big staple in what he would do and what
Yeah.
we remember him as. So this shirt, like the meaning just is even more now when we have whenever I put it on. So it always makes me think of him.
Dope.
Uh but yeah, let's see. Let's her talking about living life. I like that. You know, live life. But my
Yup.
thing is, the thing for us, especially in the Black community, is we don't take the time to research the funerals, the insurance, the everything that we need. And I think that that's important. Like she said, once you're on the table, you're not in control no more. So make those decisions ahead of time.
Yep.
Let's get that handled because a lot of things fall apart too once you die. There's
Yep.
people start making different decisions based off of their emotions and what they want for you. So, everybody step it up. No one wants to think about when they pass, but I'd rather mine be handled the right way. And if y'all gonna play with me, send me to Texas. Send me to
Yup.
Chris.
Yup. So talk to the people about how to get in touch with you, because you know they're gonna try to.
Instagram right there, Trisha Michelle _YT. That's where you can find me. We was talking about lace fronts and hair, so if y'all want to find me for hair, it's on Instagram at Hair by Trisha Michelle. But don't come over there with no dudes unless you're trying to get the men's little thing together, your locks retwisted or your hair braided. Outside of that, leave me alone. TikTok, Trisha Michelle. Of course, the Fiyah Session on all platforms. I'm always here on Tuesday, not Wednesday. I don't know what I was doing. But yeah, so, follow all of those and, make sure you subscribe to the Fiyah Session and you can't miss me.
Facts. Well, y'all already know, man. I live by a code, and my grandfather used to always tell me this: if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So when that time comes, you know what I'm saying, go ahead and put in that work ahead of time. Figure out how you would want things to go, how you would the information that you would need, so that when that time comes, you don't have to have it completely drawn out, but at least have some framework of something. So because when people pass away, the emotions get high, and people get weird in your family and start doing weird stuff. So, you want to try to help them as much as possible, and, especially encourage your older family members, your mothers, fathers, grandparents, and things like that are older, to have that stuff, what I'm saying, kind of penciled out, or a will and things of that nature already planned out, so to make things a little bit simpler for the family member when that time comes. So y'all can reach out to Mansfield Funeral Home and Miss Christie Moore. We appreciate her coming through today. Y'all already know y'all can catch me at Big Ken's Comedy on IG, Big Ken's Comedy on Twitter, Big Ken's Comedy on Facebook. Y'all can catch the Fiyah Session on all social media platforms. Just type in FIYAH Session and we'll pop right up. Go to the YouTube, like and subscribe. We're trying to build that up. We're trying to build all the platforms up. Y'all, we love y'all. We love the support. We love the questions. We love the energy that we had today. And again, shout out to Christie Moore, a very, very, very special person. And her business is going to do amazing things and going to help a lot of people. So we appreciate her. Y'all make sure y'all tune in next week. We gonna have another Fiyah Session. As we always say, y'all already know it's the Fiyah Session. Peace.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow us on all social media platforms. Just search Fiyah Session.